Hi, I'm Steve Piazzale, a career and life coach, and welcome to Your Hired, a show about jobs and careers in which we answer questions such as, how do I find work that makes me come alive? How do I get that job I want and deserve? How do I take performance to the next level and get promoted? Well, we're going to answer these questions and many more by having on the show knowledgeable, lively guests, and we certainly have one today. Before I introduce them, I'd like to invite you to check out my website where we've added the 12 keys to getting a great job. You can also sign up for a free career newsletter there and find out about the coaching I do. It's at www.bayareacareercoach.com. Again, www.bayareacareercoach.com. Well, we're thrilled to have Dick Bolles on the show. He's the author of the 2007 What Color is Your Parachute? It is the Bible for career changers, for job hunters. It was ranked in the top 25 by the Library of Congress of the most impressive books or influential
books that have shaped people's lives down through history.
And the Bible is #1. So we know that this is an amazing award, an amazing book, and an amazing man. I welcome Dick Bolles to the show.
Steve.
So, you know, a lot of times viewers think that the guests we have on there, they're successful, they've done well, that they just knew when they were 2 what they were doing. And so I like to ask, tell us the path you took to getting to write these books that now are in the 37th revision, and what is the story that led up to today?
Well, starting at the nearest point, I could go far back.
Yeah, well.
But starting at the nearest point, I was fired from Grace Cathedral. I was an Episcopal priest at that time, and they had to let me go because they had a budget crunch, and they couldn't. They had a big staff, and they couldn't afford that big staff. So I was selected for the honor of helping balance the budget.
Okay.
And then they helped me find another job, which was supervising all the campus ministers in the 9 western states. I had a lot of colleagues, and we went around and visited the campuses, and we sort of said, what do you need help with? What's on your mind? And it turned out, in turn, about a year later, they were all being fired because of budget crunches.
Oh, really?
So they said, tell us what we should do. We know you've been through this. And I said, I don't know what to tell you to do, but I had a handsome travel budget. I traveled 68,000 miles. And I researched it. I went around asking 2 questions that were sticking in my craw that I didn't know the answers to. Mm-hmm. And when I found the answers, I put it all together and self-published it. In fact, at a copy shop down on Montgomery Street in San Francisco, and distributed it to the people at cost, a little more than cost. And after 2 years, a commercial publisher came along and said, would you like to publish this commercially? And I said, sure. So
wow.
It was written solely for campus ministers originally. So I changed the book and I made it for the general public, and particularly for women as well as men, because most of the campus ministers were men at that time.
Okay.
And then the book just took off. I mean, within 1 year or so, it was on all the bestseller lists, and it hit the New York Times and stayed for 5 years. And it was just a phenomenon which I had never anticipated, because I was just trying to help all these guys I was supervising in some kind of nominal way.
And you just told me recently that it's still among the top sellers.
Yeah, it was #1 on Business Week's bestseller list last year, and #2 for 6 months this year.
That's amazing.
For 37 years it is.
37 years. And you revise it every year, right?
I do, sometimes dramatically.
So I'm going to put the book up here to show the book while I ask you, what do you see as its purpose? I mean, it's a little obvious, but from your perspective, its purpose and your mission with the book, because it seems to be a labor of love with you.
It is, yeah.
So could you talk a little bit about what you try to do in the book, what you're thinking
Well,
about?
what I was starting out to do originally was I was trying to tell people an alternative way of going about job hunting, because they all did the same thing: resumes, agencies, and ads. And if that didn't work, see the unemployment rate, there's about 8 million people unemployed, they had no alternative. So when I went around doing all this questioning, the 68,000 mile journey, what I asked was, what's the alternative to that? If resumes and agencies and ads don't turn up a job for you, what else can you do as a plan B? Nobody knew until I ran into this one guy actually two guys in Virginia, and they told me what they knew, and that proved to be the solution. So it's a very unorthodox job hunting book, and one of the things I discovered was that you need a lot of information to go job hunting. I mean, you can luck into it, but what do you do if that doesn't work? And the answer is you need a lot of information, but it isn't what you think it is. It isn't information about the job market, it's information about yourself. It's uncanny how if people sit down and do some exercises about themselves to figure out on the basis of their history and their life what they would love to do, then that opens their eyes and they run into jobs that they would walk right by if they hadn't done that kind of homework. And that's why the book has been so popular, because people have discovered they found jobs when they thought when everyone around them would say, you can't find a job in this economy, and they would do this, and made all the difference in the world. So that's how the book got going.
And what role does it play in your life, since it's you have an entire chapter in the book about mission, and this has got to be a big part of your mission. What role does the book play for you?
Well, it plays it on several levels. One is, I come from a newspaper family. My grandfather was the editor of a daily newspaper in Wisconsin. My father was an editor for Associated Press in New York City. And my brother was a very famous journalist who was assassinated back in 1976.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
In Phoenix, yeah, Don Bolles. And I've always had I guess it's built into our genes. I've always had the curiosity of an investigative reporter in trying to find out what traps are laid for job hunters, of which there are a million. And in fact, in one administration, not the current one,
okay.
I was asked by the President's advisor on consumer affairs to tell them what all the traps were that were being laid for job hunters. And eventually the Federal Trade Commission called me in and asked me to outline what was going on and what they could do to warn them. So I guess that the first thing it fulfilled in terms of my mission was it allowed me to be an investigative reporter, even though I came late to the profession. And on a deeper level, I love to give people hope. I love to give people hope. So
that's what I always say about this show. That's really tell me more.
I kiddingly say this is a book of hope masquerading as a job hunting manual, because I try to show them alternatives. Ezra Pound said years and years ago, no one is free unless they have two things to choose between. And so at every turn I try to say, try this. If this doesn't work, then try this. And I like giving people hope. I don't like people consigning themselves to despair when they don't have to. So that's been the way which has fulfilled my mission.
That's wonderful. I'm really moved by what you just said.